The International Federation of Female Lawyers (FIDA) has given an appraisal of the challenges female voters faced during the Gubernatorial and State Assembly elections in some states of the nation. The national president of the federation, Amina Agbaje, made this known during a press briefing in Abuja. Agbaje, who noted how women were encouraged to vote for certain candidates with promise of cash gifts and food items, condemned the low deployment of female security agents at polling units. She says the hope is that more women will contest for and win elections in subsequent elections.
Despite the improvement, we observed shortcomings relating to vote trading and voters' apathy, which affected women's participation at the polls. We commend eligible voters and all women that participated actively in the process for their commitment and belief in the electoral system. We have observed that within our focal states, some women emerged as winners in their respective state constituencies at the polls. In Kwara State, a 26-year-old female journalist, Rukayat Shitu, won a legislative seat at Owode Oniri constituency in Asa local government of Kwara State. Similarly, in Plateau State, Mrs. Happiness Akawu emerged winner and now representing Pengana constituency from Basa local government. In Kaduna State, Ms. Comfort Anwe won a re-election to represent Sanga constituency in Kaduna State House of Assembly. We celebrate these women and hope that this serves as an impetus for more and effective representation of women in subsequent elections. FIDA Nigeria observed little incidents of patriarchal, physical and other forms of violence perpetrated against women in 7.1% polling units within our observation in our 4 focal states and across the country. This violence was perpetrated against 11.1% of women politicians and party agents, while 2.9% of women were observed instigating or promoting violence in the polling units under our observatory. FIDA Nigeria observed few disturbing incidences of vote trading across 8.6% of the polling units. However, 91.4% witnessed no incidences of vote trading in the polling units. At polling unit 027, Tudunwada, Zaria local government of Kaduna State, women were observed being induced by party agents towards swaying their votes for a particular party with the sum of 1,000 naira. 15.7% of female party agents and politicians were found perpetrating vote buying. At polling unit 21, Ward 18, Sabongari local government of Kaduna State, women were observed obtaining food items towards swaying their votes to a leading party. At polling unit 004, Ward 7, Ilorin West local government, Kwara State, female voters were persuaded to vote for another party with the promise of a bank transfer after voting. At polling unit 11, Hayin Mahauta Ward in Giwa local government of Kaduna State, a leading political party was observed disbursing funds to women. At polling unit 009, Community Secondary School, Irekwodun local government, Kwara State, women were being induced to vote for a particular party with undisclosed sum of money, with food and drinks. Similarly, at polling unit 001, Ward 04, Ekiti, local government, women were observed being swayed with food items. FIDA Nigeria observed that women with disabilities, the elderly, aged, pregnant women, and nursing mothers were prioritized in the voting process by INEC ad hoc officials. Our observers reported that in about 94.3% of the polling units, priority voting occurred. However, in 5.7% of the polling units, these groups were compelled to join existing queues towards exercising their franchise. We have observed elections. We will say that the credibility of the elections is about 50%. Is not what is not what it ought to be. There is more to be desired. For instance, materials in some of the polling units arrived late, and if it arrived late, it means that the voting would be extended, and for some, voting was carried on, till the next day. And so you wouldn't say that the credibility of the polls was 100%. There is more room for improvement, and so on and so forth. So we would imagine, as we have recommended, that next time when elections are coming up, INEC will be more prepared, and INEC will be more effective. And particularly also when it relates to security, you find out that women were not mainstream in the security, in manning of the polls. So you would find out that you have in a particular polling unit where you have like 4 men, you have like 1 woman. And what is wrong in having 2 women and 2 men in manning polls, and so on and so forth. So for us, we would say that the credibility of the polls is not as it ought to be. It could be better. There were no violence perpetrated against women, at least none that was recorded, none that was observed by our observers. So we would say that in the areas that we observed, that women were not involved in violence, or were not in the perpetration of violence, or violence was not perpetrated against women.